Thursday night, the season is on the line for the New York Jets. If they lose, they drop to 2-7 and the season is over. AQ, what's going on with the New York Jets?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is the offensive line. I really do. Obviously, Aaron's had some issues, and there's enough blame to go around on the entire offense. They've tried to do that every which way they can. They've fired the head coach. They fired the play caller. They've made a ton of moves to get everybody in there. There's only so much more blame you can kind of deflect before we really look at what's going on. But the biggest glaring thing the last couple of weeks, when I turn on that film, they're going to the wrong guys up front in the run game. They're literally missing sifts in the pass game. The protections are turning the wrong way. Aaron's doing whatever he needs to do. He's going the wrong way on certain times. At the end of the day, you can only do that so many times before you have to look yourself in the face. And I think that's the biggest thing that's going on in New York right now. At some point, Aaron's going to have to sit there and he's got to stop coming up with excuses, and they're going to have to win a game at some point.
Before we continue with the video, I have to ask one favor. Make sure you are liking, subscribing, and turn on those notifications. If you like this type of content, if you like hearing us talk football, hit that notification button. So every time we drop a video, it is coming straight to you. Cole, what do you think about Aaron Rodgers and his play this last few weeks?
Aaron Rodgers and the Jets are in a dark place. The answer is it's complicated. If they just had a field goal kicker, they'd got 2 wins the last 2 weeks. That's the hard part. For me, when I watch him play, he's still Aaron Rodgers. He's still completing a lot of balls. He's got good weapons around him. AQ mentioned the offensive line struggles. When I watch them play, it's like, how can we get Breece Hall the ball more? And how can that create some space to push the ball down the field? I mean, everything is just catch, throw, slants, flats, the old Packer screen, like all the little things that sometimes create big plays. They're just not hitting. But I'm still pulling for the Jets.
That's what I was going to say. Your prediction was Jets make the playoffs.
It's not looking great right now, but if I had to hedge my bet on anybody, I'm hedging it on Aaron Rodgers. And I think that slowly getting Devontae Adams back up to speed. They still got Lazard. They still got Garrett Wilson. They still got Breece Hall. They got weapons. It's hard for me to put my finger on all the things that have gone wrong. But at some point, the tide's got to turn for Aaron Rodgers and the Jets, and I'm still holding out hope.
Garrett Wilson looked good. There were some deep shots there to Garrett Wilson, where Aaron Rodgers, you're like, oh, there he is. They're about to go on this run. But they have these stagnant moments, and the coaching staff has been overturned. Jay, what's it look like when a head coach gets fired? The new staff comes in, they're struggling. The kickers aren't making kicks. They're having delay of game issues. What's going on the sidelines in New York?
I don't know. I was the one that got fired, Justin. So what are you asking me for? I'll tell you what's going on in New York. New England's coach just came out and called his whole team soft. All right. They kind of responded with the win. The Jets are very soft up front on the offense. On defense, they gave up a 12-play, 70-yard drive to the New England Patriots with Jacoby Brissett to win the game. I don't think Robert Saleh would ever allow that to happen. I think firing him was a mistake. He was a good defensive football coach. They played hard for him. The whole thing with this team is just there's nothing they can hang their hat on right now. Defensively, they're not playing good enough up front. Offensively, they're not creating any big plays whatsoever. Aaron had a decent game. He was like 18 for 26 for 230 and a touchdown, and they didn't turn the ball over. And Breece Hall in the running game had almost over 100 yards. They're not manufacturing any big plays, and the defense isn't doing a good job. And their kicker might be the worst kicking stretch I've ever seen in the last 2 or 3 weeks. But as far as on the sideline, you change coordinators, you change head coaches. Who's the boss? What's Nate Hackett doing right now? Is he just chewing bubble gum in his office? I mean, who's calling plays on defense? Who's in charge of the pass game, the third down list, the short yardage? It's all in turmoil right now. There's probably a lot of dysfunction going on because nobody knows their role. They got to define roles, not only on the football team, but in the office, on the staff. You got this, you got this, you got this. You're responsible for this. And they got to come together and turn it around against the Houston Texans. If they don't, season's over. They still have a chance. They can go on a run. They're talented enough to go on a run, right? But they got to win against Houston this week. So see what happens.
You always say it's the New York Jets, and I think that goes back to ownership and like the constant turnover. How hard is it to play in a place that has that constant turnover versus knowing that that coach is going to be there for the long haul and you have that security? Colt, I'm going to take that one to you.
It's difficult, and they've obviously had a lot of change and a lot of stuff go on in their building, this entire year. Take it back to Aaron getting hurt last year, Hassan holding out. Like there was a lot of just drama and storylines leading up to this season. Then you fire coaches and all this. But like, if there's one guy that can right the ship in my mind, it's Aaron Rodgers. I know he's 40 years old. I know he's coming off his Achilles. But at the end of the day, he's still playing good football. When I watch the game, I just want to see him smile. Like, I just want to see, you talk about energy. I just want to see him just like smile one time, step in the huddle and call a play with a smile and say, let's go get him, boys. We ain't got nothing to lose. If you can get to 500 late in the season and a wild card, like who knows? But this week is huge for them. I know they're playing the Texans. When I look at the Texans in this matchup, Texans play a lot of man coverage. That bodes well for the Jets. And it's a short week. What's the easiest thing for a defense to do? Play some man. Everybody know you call man, it's an easy call. So you got Devontae Adams, you got Garrett Wilson, you got Lazard, you got a pretty good tight end. Like there's some matchups there that I like. And so hopefully the Jets can figure out a way on Thursday Night Football to figure out how can we score 24 points and maybe our defense can hold them.
But they are going to pressure Aaron Rodgers, which has been weird that Aaron hasn't been as successful against the pressure as possible. Houston will be without Nico Collins. Stephon Diggs is out for the year. AQ, I know there's a guy on the Houston Texans team that you wanted to highlight that he is going to make it a tough day for that Jets defense.
Joe Mixon is running behind maybe a top 3 worst offensive line in the NFL right now.
Wow. I wasn't expecting you to go worse. I was like, oh, okay, he's about to hype him up.
No. Top 3 worst offensive lines. I mean, they are bad right now. They might be the worst offensive line. When I turned that film on against the Colts, I mean, they are on edge the entire game in pass protection. But here's the deal with Joe Mixon. He just runs through tackles. He's not getting any help, and he's running for 100 yards every single week he's been back from injury. It's incredible to watch. I mean, and the thing that's driving me crazy about this Houston team is they've invested draft picks. They've invested money in that entire offensive line. Tunsil's making $1 billion, right? And then you go across the board and you got Kenyon Green, who's a first-round pick. You got Scruggs, who I think was a second-round pick. Shaq Mason, they've invested a ton of money in him, right? Like, I think Titus Howard, I think, was a first-round pick. So they're all invested up front, and they are just not blocking anybody. CJ Stroud's under constant pressure. The only way he's able to get the ball out, he's getting his arm hit as he's thrown. He's running play action. He's making incredible plays, but they gotta start blocking for him. They gotta start blocking for him. They gotta start blocking for the running back. And it's amazing that they're able to win as many games as they have thus far. And if they can start blocking people, they're as good a team as any team in the league right now.
And I think if you look on the other side of the ball too, AQ, the defensive line for this Houston Texans, I don't know if anyone's played better than Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson. I think they lead the league in pressures. Both of them are like in the top 3. Danico Autry's back for the Houston Texans. So it might be a battle of which offensive line can hold up in this game and give these quarterbacks a time.
I'm pretty sure Vera Tucker's out for the Jets too. So like they're already bad up front in New York, and now you take they're probably their best lineman, and he's out in New York. So they're going to have a lot of figuring out to do on both sides of the ball, trying to figure out protections this week.
Yeah, when you look at it, this Texans game is obviously very, very meaningful. They got to win this one. They have Rams later on in the season. You have the Bills. You got the Dolphins twice, who are now healthy. Going to be very, very tough for the Jets to make the playoffs. But like you said, Colt, if anybody can do it, we've seen Aaron Rodgers do it time and time again. So you're not dead yet.
Want to win money watching football? With Underdog, you could win up to 1,000 times your cash just by picking higher or lower on your favorite player's stats, like whether or not your team's running back will score a touchdown this weekend. Millions of fans have won billions of dollars on Underdog. Will you be next? Sign up now to get a free pick for your first cash entry, plus up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you deposit. Download the Underdog app or visit UnderdogFantasy.com to get started today.
In order for the Jets to win this game, I think Aaron Rodgers have to play great. I think he's going to have to throw higher than 1.5 touchdowns. They're going to see a lot of man coverage, like I mentioned earlier. A lot of good matchups out there. Devontae Adams maybe gets a couple times in the end zone. Whatever it is, I'm taking the higher Aaron Rodgers 1.5 touchdowns.
I'm going to go Devontae Adams higher, 21.5. longest reception. They got to get him a big play. They have to manufacture a big play. The Jets aren't good enough to go 12 plays and 80 yards every drive. They got to figure out ways to get a big play. Max protection, play action, little corner post, maybe a corner, maybe a high cross. Colt, you know what I'm saying? Give me something, for God's sakes, Devontae.
I'm going to go Breece Hall with the higher than 0.5 touchdowns. Whether it's running or catching a ball out of the backfield, he's going to score a touchdown this week.